person who gets an opportunity isn't always the most talented. The person who gets chosen isn't always the smartest. And the person who gets trusted isn't always the most experienced. At first, I thought that was unfair. Like, shouldn't abilities be enough? Shouldn't the person who worked the hardest eventually get recognized? But the more I paid attention, the more a pattern showed up. The world doesn't always reward the persons with the most abilities. The world rewards the people whose abilities are easiest to see. That is, the world rewards visibility more. Which led me to start asking a different question. Why does perception run more of our world than we would like to admit? Because if perception matters that much, some opportunities you get or don't get have nothing to do with your abilities. And this goes to show that there's a gap between who we think we are and who people think we are. And this gap is doing more work than we realize. Hi guys, if we haven't met before, my name is Samuel and I'm a creator who's exploring the intersection between technology and human performance. In short, I share big ideas that help us think better, learn better, work better, and ultimately live better. And I also share my discoveries on technologies that help us achieve these same things. I would like us all to answer this question. Why isn't good enough always good enough? One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that ability alone does not equal opportunity. But we're taught the opposite. We're taught to work hard, to get skilled, to get excellent, and eventually people will notice us. Well, sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Here's why. Your ability lives inside you. Other people can't reach it directly. They can't see the hours of practice you've put in. They can't see the potential you have. The only thing they can see is the evidence that you allow them see. Take for example, there are two persons with equal skill, equal certification, everything equal, like they are both capable, but one of them is a better communicator. One of them has more proof of work. He has a well-detailed portfolio of all the works he's done in the past, and the other person just has the certification. His CV isn't well arranged. He doesn't even have an organized portfolio of all the work he's done in the past. Who do you think the employer will employ? The employer will most likely or will surely employ the person who has a more detailed portfolio, who has a more organized portfolio, and who can communicate his value better. Even if the other person is more skilled and is more able, the one who communicates it clearly is the one who's going to get picked. So the problem sometimes isn't that you lack the ability. The problem is that your ability is hidden and you don't have the ability to communicate that ability properly. But that is the bigger question. Why are we also dependent on what we can immediately see? Why do people judge fast, and why do they say things like first impression matters a lot? Well, your brain wasn't built to analyze everything. It was built to make decisions and make those decisions fast. This is because every day you meet people in situations that your brain can ever fully process, and your brain tends to short circuit it, so it makes decisions faster. Within seconds of meeting a new person, your brain's already asking, can I trust this person? Is this person confident? Is this person competent? It's looking at cues that the person is giving off, and it's making deduction based on those cues. Psychologists have a name they call this. It's called thin slicing. Thin slicing basically means quick judgment gotten from limited information. And the uncomfortable thing about this is that people will always make these judgments, and they will always treat you based on these judgments that they have of you. So if perception shapes how people treat us, what exactly are they perceiving? I for one believe that everyone has two identities, the private one and the public one. The private one is one I would say you believe, right? The identity you believe you have, what you think you are, who you think you are. And the public one, what people feel you are, what people think you are. The private one is determined by the internal convictions you have of yourself, the internal beliefs you have of your person. Do you understand? And the public one is determined by the experiences people have from you, the perception people have of you, the way people see you, the way people feel you, the cues you give off to people, the signals you send off to them, the way they interpret those signals. That is the perception or the identity that you have in the eyes of people. Well, neither one of these two is the full truth. Your private identity can be wrong. You can overestimate yourself, you can underestimate yourself. We never can tell. And the public one can also be wrong. People can underestimate you, people can interpret the cues you give off wrongly, and so on and so forth. But here's the part that matters. The world doesn't interact with your intentions, it interacts with your behavior. This doesn't mean that you should fake it. It's just telling you that your actions are already telling a story about you, whether you're paying attention to them or not. This leads us to a really important question. Can perception create reality? Can how people see you actually become who you are? This is where it gets strange, because perception doesn't just change how people treat you, it can also change what you're capable of. Take for example, in a classroom setting, a teacher begins to pay more attention to a student and assure the student that he has the ability to do better and he can do more and all these things, right? the student begins to perform better over time most often than not. And this is because of the fact that there's a thing psychologists call the Pygmalion effect. And Pygmalion effect, put simply, is when high expectation leads to improved performance. You don't just stay in the classroom. When people trust you, they hand you chances, and these chances gives you experience, and this experience in turn gives you confidence. And at the end of the day, this confidence leads to better performance. In short, perception becomes opportunity becomes growth, and this growth becomes reinforced perception. The cycle starts and it runs whether or not you notice it. And no, it's all this I've said is painting it in a good light. It can also happen vice versa. You might ask yourself, if perception matters this much, should we just focus on looking successful? Well, I would answer no, because eventually the pretending will collapse. Because the goal isn't to fake identity, the goal is to become more aligned. The goal is to close the gap between what people think you are and what you are capable of. And I'll go as far as to say that there are 3 things that are actually in your control. And the first thing is that you should build real abilities, because perception without substance fails eventually. You should become someone who is worth trusting. The second thing is to learn to communicate, learn to express your work, learn to show your value, because no one will pay for something they can't see. No one will trust something they can't see, even if that thing is the real deal. As long as they can't see it, they won't trust it. And the third thing is consistency. One action makes an impression, but repeated action makes a reputation. And the reputation is what you need. Well, so why does perception matter more than we admit? Because nobody actually interacts with the full version or the full reality of who you are. They interact with the version of you they are able to observe. Your ability decides what you're capable of, but perception decides whether people are able to observe that thing that you're capable of. I don't think the goal should be obsessing over what everyone will think about you, because you can't get everyone to think a certain way about you. But the goal is to make sure that the person people see is close to the person you actually are. And with all I've said so far, I'd like to leave you 2 questions to ask yourself, and 1 question I'd like you to answer in the comment section. And I'd like you to ask yourself these 2 questions. Who am I becoming? And what evidence am I giving the world to actually believe this? Also, if you don't mind, I'd like you to answer in the comment section, what do people misunderstand about you? That brings us to the end of today's video. Once again, my name is Samuel, and thank you for watching up until this point. If you've not subscribed, I'd like you to subscribe. Please subscribe, help a boy out. Right, catch you in the next one. Peace.